My first government job was with the Army Material Command in the Department of Defense. And in that position, I was an electronics engineer, and I was in the software development group as an engineer. I had an IT background. I had actually worked as a systems analyst for the private industry with Burroughs Corporation. And I was put in a position of being the lead engineer on a software development project called Ada programming language. And we were developing a new programming language for mission critical systems. And I think what it taught me there was never had worked for the government and never had worked for the military before that, and I really learned a lot about the military and how the government worked and the dedication of a lot of the employees towards the mission. And I also learned a lot about software development in that process, very large software development programs. Well, at least at that time, very large software development programs. Everything's a relative. Now it's a small program because software has grown so enormously. I think what I did successfully at that was to be willing to move around in the government. I think one of the things that I actually, some people like to work in positions for many years and they're comfortable being in positions. I like to be always where I'm on a learning curve. And when I get in a position for too many years, I feel like I'm no longer learning and it becomes rote, and that's not interesting to me. So I always want to be learning. So I think the nice thing about the federal government is it gives the ability to, you maintain your benefits, you maintain your leave, and you maintain a relative understanding of the organization. Every agency in the government is always different. Even within the Department of Defense, it's different. But you have some basic understandings that you transfer from job to job. And so I worked for the Army Material Command for several years, but then I went to work for then Defense Communications Agency, which then became Defense Information Systems Agency. So I think the ability and willingness to move around, I think, was enriching to my career because I got to see so many different things and I got to meet so many different people. I think what they need to do is find a mentor. I think it's very critical that they find somebody who has more experience and can act as their mentor and give them and help them overcome their feelings of being overwhelmed. Help them with the process. Initially, when you get into the government, you're just overwhelmed by how enormous it is and the processes and procedures you have to go through. But if you have somebody who can teach you what I call the ropes, and in government there's there's process. The government always has process, and you have to follow that process. And then you learn that there's ways of accelerating that process if you want to get something done quicker. And they can teach you how to do that, how to talk to the right people so you can get things expedited. They can talk to you about your career, and they can also introduce you to people. I think the best career advice I never received was to really try to network as much as possible and to try to meet other people. And I think that does it for several reasons. You get to know other people, they get to know you. That will help you in your career, because when you're looking for a position in the government, the government doesn't manage anyone's career. Some corporations manage their executives' careers, and they bring them up through the ranks and different training. You have to manage your own career in the government. And the more mentors you have, the more people you know, that enhances your ability to move around the government, and also advances your ability to advance your career, because there's opportunities are not necessarily going to develop in your area, but they may develop in somewhere else in the government, and you have to take advantage of that opportunity. So you have to know that opportunity exists, and you also hopefully know somebody who has some recognition in that group of people that they would actually hire you or bring you on as an employee, and so that could advance your career. And you also may sometimes take lateral jobs just to get the experience to broaden your career. I really believe that as you try to develop yourself, you really should get as broad an experience as you can and as many experiences as you can, because I think it helps you in different situations. You get to the point in your career where there's basically nothing new. It's a little bit derivation of things and a little bit different presentation, but it's basically the same thing. And because you've been in so many different places, you've seen this before, at least in some form, and it really helps you address the problem much easier. I think, first of all, that going back to the mentoring, going back to the networking is very critical. I also think that they should take advantage, when possible, of the training that the government offers. The Federal Executive Institute, I think, is some of the best training I've ever had. I was in industry for about 4 or 5 years before I went to government, and I actually worked for AT&T and took their training. That was very good. But I think the Federal Executive Institute is as good as any training that you'll get anywhere. If you get the opportunity to go there or take some of their courses at the Federal Executive Institute and take advantages of training opportunities. One of the things that I did was that I got my PhD through the federal government. The federal government sent me for 18 months to go get my PhD. So that's an opportunity you'd never see in industry, where they would send me for 18 months and they paid my salary and they paid my tuition and paid my books and everything. And I was able to, with a family, with 2 children, 2 young children, a very understanding wife, and I managed to get my PhD through that way. So you take advantage of those training opportunities too, when they present themselves. I think they have to want to be willing to overcome the bureaucracy and make an accomplishment. I think that the one nice thing that, or one of the nice things that working in federal government is that you really, again, get to experience a lot of different things. I've experienced and been some places that I would never otherwise go. I was a U.S. representative. I had to go to Russia. I got to go to the Kremlin. I got a personal tour of the Kremlin. I never would have gotten that as a private citizen. And so there's opportunities there that you get that you would never otherwise get. And they also have the ability to, in a small way, influence a very big national issue. And so I think for example, in the cybersecurity, there's an opportunity for people to influence in a very big way where we go with cybersecurity. And it's a very critical issue as we go forward in terms of national security and economic security, that we actually have a very vibrant cyber security program, and so that's very important to the economy of the country. And that's just not cybersecurity. There's other jobs that people do that very much impact the well-being of the country. And so I think they have to look at the fact that, yes, as with any large organization, and I worked for large industry organizations when AT&T was pre-divestiture, so I know what large corporations are like. And so large corporations have their bureaucracy, not as large and not as cumbersome as government, but they all have their bureaucracies, and I think you just have to address that bureaucracy and learn how to make the bureaucracy work for you, and I think you can make some significant accomplishments.